Hello and welcome back, or welcome, I suppose. I am just going to get right into the review. I don't know why I'm so high energy. Maybe it's because I get to go on a rant, because usually I'm scripted. At least I have like little notes, I've got a little book that I put, because of the way I've got this all stacked up on my entirely professional setup of books on some drawers. Um, I'm not even sat on a chair. I'm sat on a shoebox. Well, not like a shoebox, as in like that you would buy from a shop, as in a stool I have that you can take a lid off and store things in it. That's how I record. Nothing but professionalism here on the Fall From Reality channel. Anyway, on to it. But yeah, no, that was the point I was making. Is that I'm usually a little bit scripted. I have some notes that I follow. I don't read word for word generally, but I know what I'm doing. None of that this week. I need to go on a rant about this. The Broken Window by Jeffery Deaver. Basically, quick rundown. You've got a serial killer and he is planting evidence to make it look like it's other people. So there are 3 murders confirmed right at the beginning, and they've each been pinned on a different person. Also, if my hands look gross, don't worry about it. It's just because I've been dyeing clothes. Well, dyeing a hoodie. But the point is, I forgot to put gloves on when I was doing it, so now my hands are kind of green. I'm sure it'll go away eventually. But yeah, there's your quick rundown. Also, it's got a lot to do with data mining. That's not a spoiler, but it's also interesting, and I'll probably get onto that later on. You know what? Actually, I'll start with that. I'll start with the interesting thing. The stuff about data mining, basically, quick rundown of data mining as well. It's where companies buy and sell your information. You all know about this by now. If you know about anything about Facebook or anything like that, Facebook is probably the easiest one to talk about. Yeah, companies buy and sell your information to third parties who then profit off that. There you go. That's how that works. You know when you get those weird adverts where it's like, hey, I was searching for that on a completely separate engine, and why is that now on my Facebook? That's why. Data mining. There you go. It's all linked. I hate this book. I don't usually get het up about books that aren't part of my bad reputation book club stuff. Like, usually when I get angry about a book, it's because I have chosen to read something that I know was bad, and yet I did it anyway. But this has infuriated me, because I genuinely thought this was going to be good. Because as much as anything, I know that Jeffery Deaver is meant to be one of the best. As far as I was always aware, Jeffery Deaver is meant to be one of those crime authors that people think is just up there, one of the best in the business. I can't stand this book. Now, I don't know if this was just a lull for him and his other stuff is usually better. You could not convince me to read another one of his books. You would have to pay me. Because this was just awful. To start with, I need to talk about the pacing. Because at first, I assumed that maybe it's because I wasn't reading this in only like a few sittings. I read this over the space of a couple of weeks, mostly over one, because as I was reading the last book I was reading, I didn't read as much of this as I said I was going to, and then I read a lot of it this week. But that doesn't matter, because the further I got through this, the more I kept going, how are we still only on the Sunday? How are we still only in one day? How are we still... This book takes place, I'm pretty sure, over less than 5 days. And that is ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. Partly because they are in... Now, I think they're only in New York City, with some references to... I think they referenced Long Island a couple of times. If Long Island is in New York City, and Long Island is not part of New York State, correct me if I'm wrong, but I also kind of don't care. The only thing I know about Long Island is Long Island iced tea cocktails and the pro wrestler MJF, because he's from there, and that's the only thing I know about that place. So, anyway, And to be fair, that does not necessarily paint Long Island in a good light, that the only thing I know about it is MJF. But anyway, God, I wish I was talking about that right now and not this book. Pacing, awful, doesn't make sense. Because it's either so drawn out, you're wondering how so much can happen in so little time, and not in that way that you're going, oh my god, this keeps happening and happening and happening. It feels like it's building up, big tension. It's just like, surely it's the next day by now. Surely someone's gone to bed somewhere. And I get it, it's like, no, you can't sleep until this case is up. Shut up. It's not what this is about. It's not even what this feels like. This doesn't feel like somebody, who's staying awake through long hours just to make sure this guy gets caught. It just feels like at some point the day should be over. You're allowed to have another day. That's fine. Like, you're allowed to... I genuinely think at most this is a week. And I don't understand how they think that makes sense. How he thinks. Jeffery Deaver. I don't understand how he thinks that makes sense. But then you get the climax, and it all feels like it's over so quickly, but also feels like it's being dragged out. Because you go, oh, it's over now. And then it cuts back to it. And you're going, no, but I thought you finished it. So it still doesn't feel like it makes sense. But it also still feels somehow like I don't understand. I mean, to be fair, technical prowess in itself to somehow make something feel like it's being dragged out and like it's being rushed at exactly the same time. I mean, I commend you. Lots of awards for you. I'm sure he has got lots of awards. I'm sure this book has rewards as well. Oh, I don't care. Speaking of the climax, big thing in crime fiction is the reveal. Who is the man behind all this, or woman, but crime fiction, I mentioned this before, it's usually men. Who is the person behind all of this? I forgot this man existed. Now, admittedly, it's a 2-step reveal, and the second part works. You've got initial reveal. Here is you've got the person and the person they're pretending to be, and then the person that they actually are, kind of thing, right? So, say you've got murderer. Murderer is pretending to be person A, but in actual fact they're person B. It's hard to explain because I don't want to spoil it, but basically it was really, really bad because it was unsatisfying, and I think that reveals in crime fiction should be satisfying. That's sort of the point. The reveal of the criminal should be the point where every single piece that has been being built up throughout a work of fiction should be coming together neatly. This was some BBC Sherlock-ass bullshit. Honestly. I just felt like I was being handed something that I didn't ask for. And I'm not saying that it has to be someone that is an obvious suspect, or it has to be somebody in the foreground. In fact, it usually is somebody who's a little bit more background. Somebody who might take you by surprise. It's okay to be surprised. It feels nice if you get it right. If you go, yes, it was who I thought it was all along. And it's not usually the number one suspect kind of thing. Of course it's not. Why would it be? If it was, generally, it's going to make for a slightly more like, oh, it was them. Well, of course it was. You know what I mean? And yes, I'm aware. Hard to get right. But that's kind of the point. I don't mean it should be difficult, but the point I'm making is that, yeah, it's difficult to get right, and he didn't make it. And I thought he would, because I thought that Jeffery Deaver was a better writer than this. And I've never read his stuff before. This is purely from what I've heard, and I'm aware that fiction is, a very individual thing to enjoy. All books are. But mean, just technically, this wasn't well done. I hate to say it, but it wasn't. This reveal was somebody who was... You sort of think about it and go, oh, that kind of does make sense. And he tries to make some pieces fit together. So there's a thing about pictures. And again, I'll leave it at that because I don't want to do spoilers here. Because you know what? Maybe you should go and read it and see if it's just me being pissy. But there's a thing about pictures. And that it later links to the killer in a different way than maybe... It comes back in a way that I didn't expect it to come back. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. Towards the end, there are 2 false reveals. One of them, I went, who's that again? Oh, of course, that's it. And that would have made sense. That was just me forgetting because I'm not very good with names. But there was a little step of like them arguing before a fight. There's 2 people arguing before a fight. There's a cop, not Lincoln Rhyme, the sort of lead. He's not a detective, but it's hard to explain. But you've got a cop, a suspect, they have a bit of a scrap. Before that, there's like a little bit, the argument. I sort of went, oh yeah, of course that's who it is, and it would have made sense. Nope, not him. Then there's another one. And it's like, no, turns out that, this isn't a spoiler, but it turns out that he didn't take the mode of transport that he said he took was because he's gay and he's hiding that from his dad. Okay. Fine. Would have made a good suspect. Would have made a good reveal. Nobody would have been mad about this. Do you know there's 3? There's a 3rd guy as well. Oh my god, there is. There's a 3rd guy that's brought out, and he sort of helps to find the guy in the end. And it's just like... No, you know what? When I'm editing, I'm going to put a point here. Now, I will have to remember to do this, and I'll put it in my notes. There will be a timestamp. I will put a prolonged picture, like I will put it on for a few seconds, of a bear stealing a jet ski. This is how I used to do it on the written blog. The timestamp will link to the picture of the bear. When you get to him, you're out of the spoiler zone. Because I'm going to talk about how the reveal was done. You've got your vague spoiler free. So basically, spoilers start now. If you don't want to stick around, go to the timestamp. If you don't care about spoilers, this is your last warning, right? So, as a wider setup, you've got this data mining company, and they are at the centre of everything. Now, that's pretty clear from the start. The reveal is a security guy. Well, the initial reveal is a security guy who took around 2 of the detectives on the case. Sort of makes sense, but also, who is this man? Where is my connection to him? And I don't mean, like, because there are some POV moments from the killer's perspective, but you don't find out who he is from those. You do only find out who he is at the end, as one of the detectives finds out. But I don't know who he is in terms of from the detective's point of view. I want to be able to see this character. So, for example, when I was reading Crybaby, when the criminal was revealed, I'm not going to spoil that, by the way, but when the criminal was revealed, I had an idea who this man... I'm not saying I need a whole fucking background or whatever, but I knew who he was beyond a couple of brief glimpses. There was some insight into the idea of a character. This man wasn't a character. Then, there's the, oh, he's not just a security guy, he's actually somebody who'd previously caused problems for the company. Something Gordon, I can't remember by now, James Gordon or something like that. And he's caused problems for this data mining company. And then at some point faked his own death so the company couldn't find him anymore or something like that. And it's so convoluted. And I found this stressful. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was trying to just find out who this person was, trying to rack my brains of making sense of it. I genuinely thought, oh, the security guy. I guess that kind of makes sense. I don't like it, but if it's this other guy, surely they recognize him. Well, he answers that. Turns out it was all done remotely. Fair enough. It still doesn't make a lick of sense. If this is somebody who is working for a company that knows every ounce of data about every single person, then surely they know who this man is. But then you could go, oh, but he can cover his tracks really well because obviously he's deeply, invested in data and how it works and all of that. It just adds up. And even then, I've said spoiler, but it doesn't make sense, right? Usually, if you went and read this, which I don't recommend that you do, if you went and read this, you would not get to point where you see the security guy and go, oh, I see. Because that is what a good crime novel should be, with the satisfaction. If I read Agatha Christie and I find out who the killer is at the end, and then I go back and I read that book again, I will see the point of that criminal being suspicious. I don't know that I would get that in this. I have no memory of the criminal being suspicious. I didn't get that's why he was doing this, that's why he was doing that. The only bit I got from that was explained to me when they said, oh, that's why he was able to get all the data, because he has access to the sort of server lab area, computer lab area kind of thing. And there's reason that he's not downloaded any of the dossiers on people is because he's taken pictures of them. But even then, Jeffery Deaver really tried something here, but I think he just tried too hard. Right, you're out of the spoiler zone now. So the last thing I want to talk about, because I couldn't remember if I had talked about it, but I don't think I have, is the weird way that Jeffery Deaver talks about Lincoln Rhyme being in a wheelchair. Now, I don't know if in any of the books before this, in the Lincoln Rhyme series, that he is in a wheelchair. I haven't read any of it, and it seems like a relatively recent accident that's put him in that chair. And it also seems like it's a reference to a particular incident, probably one that featured elsewhere in the series. Now, he's in a chair. Most of what he has an assistant, and he has a lot of voice commanded apparatus because he can only move his shoulders, neck and head. Now, if you were to walk up to somebody who was in a wheelchair, would you notice that they are disabled? It's a simple question. Maybe you can answer it in the comments below. That's a proper YouTuber thing to say, isn't it? Because in this book, almost every time he meets somebody new, there are phrases along the lines of X character didn't notice that Ryan was in a chair, or it took X character a few moments to notice that he was disabled, or something like that. And it's like, no, I'm sorry, but it's not offensive to say that you've noticed that somebody's disabled if it's that clear. This is not somebody pretending to notice that somebody with a hidden disability is noticeably disabled. Most people would not know that I have hidden disabilities. I have mental health issues, which are the biggest one for me. I also am deaf in my left ear. I sometimes wear a hearing aid for that. I'm in the house on my own at the minute. I don't wear my hearing aid when I'm on my own, mostly because I've got headphones on, that kind of thing. But anyway, point is, I've got hidden disabilities. Most people wouldn't spot that with me, unless it's on the occasions that I walk around with walking stick. Sometimes I need that, because I've got a rubbish knee. That's what it is, right? Hidden. I've hidden disabilities, so you might not notice them. They are not in sight. They are hidden away. Lincoln Rhymes' disabilities are not hidden. Jeffery Deaver, are you dense? Like, and I know that's rude, but I don't care that that's rude, because it is just density, plain and simple. Like, as much as anything, even if you aren't noticed that, oh, he's in a chair straight away, you might think that he's sat down. But most of the time that isn't true, because he's in a motorised... Sorry, I just knocked something over there. He's in a motorised wheelchair with elements of voice command functions. Now, I'm not saying that it definitely is like this, but in my head, I'm thinking of a Stephen Hawking setup. He can't use his arms at all. He can shrug his shoulders, move his neck, move his head and face. Now, that to me says visibly disabled. Why? Is it? I don't like using this word because it doesn't feel right coming out of my mouth, but is it Diva trying to be woke? Is it him trying to be some kind of politically correct? Because to me, it reeks of the same shit that I don't see colour reeks of. Now, I'm not going to go into details about that kind of thing. I'm not the person, clearly, to talk about that kind of thing. But it's still just... it reeks of bullshit. I don't understand where this idea comes from. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm being degrading here, but if nothing else, somebody in a wheelchair is likely to be, unless because some motorised wheelchairs, they do leave you very high, especially if there's a lot of computer units around, which perhaps his is, but generally, wheelchair users are either likely to be visibly lower down, I was going to say shorter, but they're not necessarily shorter, but visibly lower down than everybody else in the room if everybody else is standing up, or they're going to be at the same height because they're surrounded by all of the computers. Either way, you're going to notice. And besides, these are people who deal with information about other people. Funnily enough, I imagine they're going to be the type of people to notice what's going on around them. They're going to be aware. Make it make sense. If it had happened once or twice, with maybe one or two characters that are like, no, nothing to do with characters, but if it happened once or twice, I might have gone, oh, it's a bit stupid, but I don't know, it's 15 years old as this book, maybe it's something to do with that. No, it happens all of the time with most characters, and I couldn't hack it. It was just so infuriating. I don't think I have to say that I do not recommend this book under any circumstances. I mean, about that last part, can you just let me know? Comment. Leave a nice little comment, or maybe an angry comment telling me that, is this just me overthinking it, or is this stupid? But yeah, I don't recommend that you read this book. It's not enough of a so bad it's good. It's not interesting enough to maybe go and look past some of the technical faults. It's just infuriating to read. I don't recommend it at all. Not one bit. Let's talk about next week. Let's just get on with it. Speed through the end of this. Mostly because I think I'm starting to get a tension headache from ranting about that. First up, we'll be reading... First up, might be second. I don't know. Whichever I finish first. But anyway, we have Cherry by Nico Walker. It is an account of somebody's time post the Iraq War. And second of all, we have The Doll Maker, which seems to be about a creepy man who loves dolls. I'm only about 30 pages into it. It seems to be a bit creepy, but it's probably the point. That's it. I need to take a break. Hopefully at the end of this month, beginning of next, I will have a video essay out. I'm not going to say what about. I want that to be a surprise. But yeah, that's all. I want to go and get some food because I need to get rid of this tension headache, and some tasty food should be the way to do it. Right.